Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battleground. This is a podcast where Battle and friends talk all things wrestling and laugh with comedians that are way funnier than him. And you never know who's going to stop by. Here is your host, Battle.
All right, so we're back for another episode. Battle's here. Eli's over here.
What's up?
Yo, so it is a big week in wrestling. It is WrestleMania week. How excited are you?
I'm pretty pumped, I'll be honest. I actually went to the show last year and didn't have the best time. But this year, the card is stacked, and I really wish I had gone. But yeah.
And they're saying, let's see, I'm just counting down. 1, 2, 3, what is it, like 15 matches,
15
give or take?
Or 16, yeah.
And it's crazy. And oh, by the way, also on the show today, we have Jason Mewes. You've known him from Jay and Silent Bob, Clerks, Mallrats, everything that Kevin Smith has done.
Yeah.
Jason Mewes is in it. So we'll get to that interview a little bit later, but let's just go ahead and dive in to the wrestling matches. Let's go ahead and jump into, let's say, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Like, this is not even really considered. It should be considered for anything.
Yeah, it's cool that they're honoring Andre the Giant, but the past winners, like it doesn't really mean anything. You don't
get a push, you don't get a title shot.
I think Mojo Rawley won one year.
Mojo won. That was the year that Gronk came in. Braun Strowman's won it.
Matt Hardy won it last year.
But they don't get anything after. So it's kind of like a consolation. You're still going to be at WrestleMania, but here you go.
I have for that one, I have either Braun winning again or wild card, I think EC3. Rumors are they want to push him, and maybe that's the start of his push. So.
When I look at this, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, you got Braun, you got Michael Che, and you got Colin Yost in there. I have a feeling it's going to come down to those three. Mm-hmm. And, I feel as if WWE is going to be like, you know what? Let's put these guys over, and those two are going to eliminate Braun, and one of those two is going to win the thing, just for shock value and to get everybody talking about it.
I wouldn't put it past him.
And that's the thing. And then you look at everybody else. You got No Way Jose, Bobby Roode, Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin, who I think should have wrestled against Kurt Angle, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're saying Braun, I'm saying, Michael Che or Colin Yost.
Yeah, and my wild card is EC3.
And your wild card is EC3. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. So let's go on to another, I guess, pre-show match, which is the Cruiserweight Championship match, Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese.
I love Buddy Murphy. I think what he's done since he went down to Cruiserweight weight has been awesome, and his match last year at WrestleMania was one of the top matches. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Nese pulls out the shock and gets the title at this one.
I'm kind of right there with you, and I think it's one of those things that it's time for Buddy Murphy to drop it, because I've been following him on social media, and I've read all the dirt sheets, even though it's the dirt sheets, and a lot of people are saying that that Buddy's going to drop it, and he's going to go to either Raw or SmackDown when that whole thing transitions.
I think he's ready for that.
And to be completely honest, the matches that I'm looking at, if I could say, here's a future storyline, Buddy and Finn.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean they have similar build and similar move set, so yeah, I think that'd be a pretty good one to watch.
So to sum it up, you've got Tony Nese winning this match.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And I've got Tony winning this match. All right, so what's the next one that we're going to look at?
I don't know where this one will end up, but we have the women's battle royal, similar to the Andre the Giant. I have 3 that I'm looking at for this one. Obviously, Asuka. Mandy Rose has got a lot of screen time in the last 2 to 3 months, and I think she's going to be in line for some kind of push. And then also, we talked about this before we got on, Lacey Evans has been making her presence known for months.
It's kind of like that Eva Marie thing. She walks in the ring, waves, and then walks right back.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something similar to what happened with Bayley at one of these, where you get down to like Asuka and she's got her back turned, and then Lacey Evans comes in and throws her out and wins.
Right.
Sneaky. So
I can see that happening.
Yeah. So those 3 are the 3 I think have the best shot at this. But again, it's kind of like we mentioned, it's kind of a forgettable
right.
thing.
It's one of those ones that it's as I like
you're
that they're
on the card.
Right. I like that they're pushing the women division, but this is like, prime example with Mickie James. Somebody said something to her about not being at WrestleMania this year. She made a thing, and then all of a sudden now she's in the Battle Royal.
Yeah.
And I sit here and kind of look at it, and I kind of agree with you, the Mandy Rose, and I think Lacey and Asuka are going to be your three. But I think the wild card in this match, it's going to be Nikki Cross.
Yeah, she's. I loved her in NXT, and she, like a lot of people that get called up, I think she kind of has been lost in the mix a little bit. But I mean, if they let her go and kind of play up this like psycho, like crazy, aspect of her character, I think she could be really big. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
All right, let's see. So that's that. I believe was the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Is that a pre-show of what I saw? I believe.
Yeah, one of them, either that one or the Raw. I can't remember which one.
So let's jump into those. So the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, you got the Usos versus the Bar versus Ricochet and Aleister Black versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev.
Yeah, I'm a big Usos fan. Since they kind of turned heel, or even if you don't want to call it heel, just they quit wearing the face paint and all that kind of stuff. They have been probably the best tag team in WWE for 2 or 3 years straight now. I really like the Bar. I thought it was a weird pairing, and before they got together as a team, they had that best of 7 match. So we were just seeing Sheamus and Cesaro fight all the time. And so putting them as a team was kind of weird, but they've clicked and they've been awesome. Ricochet and Aleister Black reminds me of Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. It's just like a temporary thing, and same thing with Nakamura and Rusev. Like it's just, I don't know, it's just an odd pairing. So from a skill level, I think Ricochet and Aleister Black should win it, but I think the Usos are going to retain it, and then I think like Ricochet and Aleister Black are going to finally separate.
I'm kind of right there with you on that one. I mean, as of right now in SmackDown, there's really not that tag team that can go against the Usos. I mean, prime example when they put Shane and Miz together and like, here's the tag team titles. We don't have anybody else. But it's like, Usos retain it. Does that mean now after WrestleMania we find out, does Heavy Machinery go after him? Because I think that the Usos and Heavy Machinery would probably be an interesting storyline to watch.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of, over the last couple of years we've had Usos and New Day, Usos and the Bar and New Day, Usos, Bar, New Day. I mean, it's all that,
right.
You can only see that combination so many times. So I think that was kind of some of the thinking behind like Ricochet and Aleister Black pairing and Shinsuke and Rusev. But yeah, I think it's definitely, you're going to have to start seeing some new teams come in there, just because good news is Usos just re-signed with the company, so they're not going anywhere.
Right.
But I mean, you got to keep it fresh, And
here, if I was part of creative, which everybody that's a WWE fan should be a part of creative
right.
to begin with, I think a good storyline is you take the Usos, they retain the titles, and then you pair them up with Sanity.
Ooh.
And that whole Uso Penitentiary, Sanity, that storyline, you go on with that, you could have a great matches because Eric Young is a phenomenal wrestler.
Yeah. I really hate that they've kind of got lost in the mix. And even at NXT, I mean, they won the titles, but like, they never really got to.
They never pushed him.
No, and Eric Young, he was in Impact, is what it's called now. But I mean, he was the Impact champion, and I think he beat Kurt Angle for that belt.
I believe so. Yeah.
So I mean, like he was a top guy, and when they signed him, it was a big deal, and it just never really, I mean, they were popular, but they weren't like a top.
They weren't the guys.
Nah.
So we both agree on that match. It's going to be the Usos winning it. So let's move on to, I guess, the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Revival versus Ryder and Hawkins. Now, we both kind of talked before we cracked the mics open, and we both kind of are on the same page that we believe that this is the moment that, Hawkins breaks his losing streak. He gets his Mania moment, and he takes home the tag team titles.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Revival. You know, they remind me of, you know, Arn Anderson and, you know, back in the day, and hence the name. So I love their NXT stuff. They've kind of got lost in the wash a little bit, but the, you know, last 6 months they've been awesome and, you know, have the belts. But yeah, I think it's time. I mean, Hawkins, he's kind of played up this losing streak, but you know, I think they like to give those WrestleMania moments, is what they call it. So yeah, I definitely think that's probably the best scenario in that, you know. But then they may drop him the very next night.
Right, and that's the thing with that's the thing that's always funny, is to watch the Raw after WrestleMania, because that's when you see everybody that gets called up. That's when you see people lose the title. Because if I remember correctly, was Christian won the title at WrestleMania, I believe, and then the next night lost it to Randy Orton with an RKO when Christian jumped off the top rope.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, I mean, I think that Ryder and Hawkins walks away with the titles. They become, you know, their Mania moment. Hawkins finally gets his losing streak snapped, and then more than likely they will try to Undertaker Hawkins, and he'll do that kind of thing eventually. So, so looking ahead, what's the next one on the card?
I mean, I guess we'll just stick with the tag teams. We'll do the women's tag team, and that'll wrap up that. So yeah, Sasha Banks and Bayley versus Nia Jax and Tamina versus Beth Phoenix and Natalya versus the Iconics.
Ooh, so the way this is looking is the Women's Tag Team Championship match. So we all knew that it was eventually Sasha and Bayley were going to get the titles because they didn't want to put it on anybody else. But, you know, you sit in here and think, okay, Beth Phoenix and Natalya hasn't had much of any belt around her waist. Right. And it's like they just announced that her dad was going in the Hall of Fame, and I believe that, being the fan and watching how creative works, I'm saying that Beth Phoenix and Natalya are going to win this, but my sleeper is the Iconics. That's
exactly what I say. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense for them to bring someone out of retirement like Beth Phoenix and not have her win, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's a big event. I think they're high on the Iconics. I just think that they haven't really played, because, you know, they are the ones that caused Charlotte to lose her title last year, and Carmella won the belt. So I mean, like, that was a big story. So, you know, I think that they're high on them, but they just haven't really found the right fit for them. So I think I agree with you. If there's a wild card, it's them. And but I think it's going to be Beth and Natalya. I'd be surprised.
And you know, you have Nia Jax and Tamina in there, and it's like you can literally watch the fan base turn every week on Nia and Tamina.
Yeah. Well, and it's, you know, in the industry, you have heat, which is what you want to have as a heel character, but then there's also like go home heat, which is
nobody wants you there.
Where we kind of what Brock's getting nowadays.
And I think I think this go home heat with Nia all started when she legitimately punched Becky at, you know, Raw.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that was putting the target on the back for sure.
So now that we've moved on, let's see, Women's Tag Team Champions, we talked about that. Now, Mania always has like a couple random matches, and you're like, why? Randy Orton and AJ Styles.
Yeah. I mean, that one is just one of those. It's good on paper. You know, they haven't really had a match, and why not have it at WrestleMania? I don't understand why AJ Styles hasn't headlined a WrestleMania yet.
Right.
You know? I mean, however you want to look at it, he probably is the best person on the roster right now. You know, he might be tied for first with somebody, but I mean, he is incredible. So this match, you know, it hasn't been built up like the Becky and Ronda match or anything like that. But I mean, I think it'll be good. I think AJ will probably win. But yeah, it's kind of one of those. Just it's a filler for me.
Yeah, and I mean, it should be. You know, you're gonna get the pop of the RKO because I mean, Randy always has to have the big Mania RKO pop. Yeah. AJ's gonna have his big pop, but at the end of the night, I'm saying that AJ's gonna beat Randy Orton. It's gonna be the passing of the torch.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Okay, what's next on the list?
So we hinted about the Kurt Angle match. So yeah, Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. A lot of people upset about that match.
I was one of the people that were really upset about that because I was sitting there thinking, and they're like, I was one of the fans that jumped on Instagram when they were like, who should Kurt Angle be? And I was like, it's got to be either John Cena, who was John Cena's first match, Shelton Benjamin, or Charlie Haas.
Yeah. I mean,
those are the top three, and then you come out and it's like Baron Corbin. I'm like, what in the hell just happened?
Yeah, and there was I was hearing a rumor that The Undertaker might actually come out and do the last match with that. But yeah, I mean, it wraps up a storyline, but Kurt Angle is going to go down as one of the greats. I mean, you can ask tons of people who say he's the most gifted. To not do it naturally, to just start training at like 25. I mean, he's one of the most gifted people to ever do it. So I don't know. And honestly, I'm not actually a Baron Corbin hater. He's got good mic skills and he's a good wrestler. It's just the wrong fit for this. And it's the right,
of course, reading
match.
The dirt sheets and everything online, I keep seeing that Cena's at WrestleMania. There's a surprise happening. I'm thinking creatively, something's going to happen to Baron backstage. All of a sudden, Angle's going to be waiting. Boom, that music hits. Big pop. Both have their Mania moments.
Yeah. Cena
puts Angle over one more time. That's it. Right off in the sunset, retired, going to the Hall of Fame next year.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that happening for sure. I think...
Oh, actually, Kurt's already in the Hall of Fame, so wait until next year.
Yeah. I think as a performer, I could see Kurt putting Baron over, just like doing best for business or whatever, but I think Kurt wins when it's all said and done, whether that scenario happens or he ends up just fighting Baron Corbin, so...
All right, so let's talk the United States Championship match. Samoa Joe, Rey Mysterio.
This is kind of a throwaway again for me.
It doesn't really move the needle for me on this match. I think that they give it to Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing so much with Mysterio's kid now. So this could be one of those ones that Mysterio's kid comes in and costs Mysterio the match.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about that.
But at the end of the day, I'm thinking that Mysterio walks away with the title.
Yeah. I think Joe's underrated, especially like his mic skills. And, if you go back and look at what he did when he was paired up with Brock, I mean, he's incredible on the mic. So I think they gave him a belt to tide him over. But, yeah, this one is, kind of a sleeper for me. So, yeah, I'm okay with Ray taking that one.
All right. So let's move on to Shane McMahon versus The Miz, Falls Count Anywhere match. I will go ahead and call it that The Miz will beat Shane McMahon.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Shane fan. And, just having to have a spot every WrestleMania is just kind of getting on my nerves. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan at all. The Miz is one of my top 5. I mean, he's incredible on the mic, and I think he's really, in the last 5 years, just turned a corner, and he's been on point. So, yeah, definitely shooting for The Miz on that one.
Okay, so we're both kind of on the same page. The Miz is going to take home that one. McMahon's going to do his coast to coast and call it a day.
Yeah.
So, okay. What's next on this list for WrestleMania card?
So this one's pretty interesting. It's Batista and Triple H, a no-holds-barred match.
Right.
I ultimately thought it would be Batista, but now that they've put the stipulation, if Triple H loses, he puts his career on the line, I don't see him being done anytime. I mean, his days are probably numbered, but I mean, he's probably still got a couple more years in him. So when that and then I think this is Batista's last match. I think he really wants to be done. So I think it'll be Triple H.
And going into it, when I saw the match, I was like, okay, Batista's going to lose because he made the comment that the only thing Triple H has never done is beat him. Mm-hmm. And I sat there and thought, okay, well, they're going to have a match at WrestleMania. Triple H is going to win. They're not going to let Triple H lose.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, and it was funny because, after that happened, they had the thing over at Saudi Arabia, and he, I guess, tore his pec.
Right.
So I didn't think he was going to be ready, but I guess he is ready.
And this is going to be one of those matches that it's two old guys going at it.
Yeah.
Can Batista still hang? I mean, we saw him at Mania against Daniel Bryan, but it's going to be interesting to see how it happens. And the real question is, does Flair come in and cost somebody the match? Because he was cleared to wrestle.
Yeah, he got cleared to take bumps. I wouldn't be surprised if you see something happening with Evolution, either just Flair and Randy Orton, just to tie it all together. And since it's no holds barred, like, why not? I mean, nothing can happen. So, yeah, I would be fine with a Batista win, but I think it'll be Triple H.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Triple H can take home that one. Let's move to the next one, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Another match that's nothing exciting for me.
I don't know what they're doing with Drew McIntyre. I mean, they brought him back, and he's in incredible shape. He won the belt in NXT, came up, and I don't know. I mean, he's in the mix. He's always on Raw, and he's always in one of the last matches on the pay-per-views. But I mean, he's not like the top guy. So like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd be surprised if they didn't give it to Roman just coming back from cancer.
Right.
But like, at some point they got to give the ball to Drew. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of snoozing on that one for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's the feel-good story that he's back, but we all know how it's going to end. WWE's going to hand him the win. He beat cancer. It's great for him. That's awesome. And very cool that he beat cancer, now he's back. But it's like, you want to give him that Mania moment, which I think he'll have another Mania moment later in the night, but we'll talk about that in another match.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Demon versus Bobby Lashley. Now, I think if I remember correctly, the Demon has never lost a fight, correct?
I know at pay-per-views he has not, for sure. So
this will be his Mania moment, and I think this is another storyline that is just kind of like, you had Finn Balor, who was the first, Raw champion, handed over the next night, then he's just kind of been lost in the shuffle, and then it's like, here's the Intercontinental Championship, which is a great title to have, but it's like, we're going to put you against Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, and same thing, Bobby Lashley returned last year after Mania, and had great success in Impact. He was their champion, and at the one time he held like 2 or 3 belts in Impact. With WWE, he never got past like the Intercontinental or the U.S. title. So, I think he's just a big dude. I think they like his build and everything, but I don't think he's like a top guy. So I think like with Finn bringing the Demon out, I think he'll be the winner on that one.
So there we go. We both have agreed Finn Balor is taking home the title again, and I don't think that Lio Rush will have anything to do with it.
Nah.
They'll probably get beat up. But anyways, So what's next on this list? We've got 3 more matches, and we've saved the best 3 for last.
I guess we'll just do the Universal Championship because that's the one I have least interest in.
I think that's the one that everybody has least interest in.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, Brock against Seth Rollins. I'm a big Seth Rollins guy. I actually like him better as a heel. Going back a couple years ago when he had the world belt and the U.S. belt, I mean, they obviously had all the confidence in the world in him,
Right.
And then blew his knee out, and of course, when you get hurt, they take away your push. So I appreciate that he's gotten back to this position. Some of it is just serendipitous. He had an incredible 2018, but then Roman went down, so it was just they had to give it to somebody.
Kind of that seesaw effect.
Yeah. I mean, you never can tell. I mean, last year when I was at WrestleMania, I was completely confirmed that Roman was winning the belt, and then he didn't. And that actually agitated me more than if Roman had won it. So, with Brock, you can never tell. But I think what we were talking about before we got on, even if it's something where the Shield helps Seth and that's their last moment, they come out and whatever, do the powerbomb through the table or whatever, I think they're finally moving on from Brock. But I wouldn't be surprised if the next time we talk, Brock still has the belt.
Right. So we're both kind of on the same agreement. Brock is probably going to walk away with the title. Something will be shocked, though. One thing that I could see happening, and this would be a great thing. Brock loses. Seth gets the belt. Seth is the new Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah, I would love
those two on the mic together. It'd be like CM Punk all over again.
Yeah, I've been waiting for Paul Heyman to get a new guy for a while. They really they stuck him with Brock because Brock's not that great on the mic. But I mean, they had him with CM Punk, who was phenomenal on the mic. So I think pairing him with somebody, because see, I actually wanted Roman to be with Paul last year, and that would make more sense.
That would be, yeah.
And then even if you did something like Roman, if Roman acted like the Usos acted, or even if they all started a faction because they're all kind of related,
right?
I would be a huge Roman fan at that point.
That would be,
it's not happening.
Huge, yeah.
But Rollins with Heyman would be gangbusters.
Man, just think about that. That's crazy. Another match that everybody wants to see is Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Now, I sit here and think about this as like, WWE historically has not given the belts to African American wrestlers. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody knows it's a known fact. There's been a select few that get it, that people believe in. And I mean, even back in the Attitude Era, Ahmed Johnson even admitted to Vince is not going to give it to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been cool. I mean, the last 10 years you've had, or 15 years, Booker T and Mark Henry both had it. I guess The Rock is mixed, so he partly had it,
Right.
But yeah, that's been a glare. And even, I mean, WCW, Ron Simmons won it in the early 90s, and then I don't remember anybody else having it. So, I mean, that's definitely an issue that's been prevalent for a long time. You and I talked about it. I can see them giving the belt to Kofi and then him losing it right away, kind of like what they did with Zack Ryder a couple years ago.
Right.
My bet is Daniel Bryan, though, because as cool as the Kofi Mania has been, and really kind of shows how deep the roster is and how anybody could take a spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, even going back to Zack Ryder, I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. When he comes out, people pop. I mean, I think he could get a push. I mean, there's just so many people on this roster that they're not utilizing in a good way. But Daniel Bryan, I think, since he kind of turned on AJ and has become the new Daniel Bryan, I think this run has been better than anything he's done in WWE. I mean, he's been just on another level, and I don't know if people really realize how good he's been, but I hope maybe when we look back on this, maybe when he's going in the Hall of Fame, this will be kind of one of his defining moments.
Right.
So I think it's going to be Daniel Bryan, but again, like you were mentioning, maybe they give it to Kofi for one night and then he drops it on Tuesday or something.
Yeah. I'm thinking Kofi's going to take it home, and we're going to get into this last match. We'll talk about it real quick because we got Jason Mewes on the show today. So Raw Women's Championship, SmackDown's Women's Championship, winner takes all, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Becky Lynch is going to win.
Yeah, the rumor for this last year was Charlotte and Ronda, and that's why Charlotte beat Asuka last year and ended her streak, and that's where the wheels started rolling. And then the Becky movement started around September, and all bets were off. And I think they've kind of got to it kind of clumsily, in a clumsy manner. I mean, you've talked about it, like, Becky's been rested like I don't know how many times, but,
right?
And there's been just weird Twitter spats and forcing Charlotte into it, and now both belts are in. I mean, it's I think they had a clear line and they took the most forced way to get there, so that was kind of frustrating, but that's typically what WWE does. So I think at this point, if Becky doesn't win, there's going to be a riot. So I'd be very shocked if they don't, which at that point we'll have to see what that means, if they're combining the titles or she just goes to both shows or whatever. But yeah, that one, first time women have headlined WrestleMania, I think that one's probably going to blow the roof off.
That's going to blow the roof off. We're both kind of in the agreement that Becky Lynch is going to take it on. So now that we've recapped all of WrestleMania, let's get into the interview with Jason Mewes.
Awesome.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Such an honor to have this guy in the studio. Like, I feel like he is a part of my life. Jason Mewes is in the building. He is at Zany's this weekend. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm still waking up. It's we got in late last night, and then we had to make our trip to Walmart that we always do. We get in past midnight. We always have to go to the store and get some goodies for the hotel. Usually, I need a box fan to sleep. Bzzz,
right,
the noise. And so anyway, but it's part of our routine. My buddy Jay West, he comes with me all the time, right here behind me. But anyway, so yeah, time we went to sleep and stuff, and the time difference, but yeah, we're good, man. So far, so good. It's cool to be here again. I've been here 4 or 5 times here in Nashville. So it's always fun to see those bikes. It's like, 11 in the morning, and there's like
people riding them, and
10 ladies riding, drinking, and
pedal
hooting and hollering. Yeah.
Well, there's a new one now that you can ride in the back of a hot tub.
What?
Yeah, so...
Wait, what do you mean?
So there's a trailer, and then there's a hot tub at the end of this trailer, so you could drink, get in the trailer, in the hot tub, ride around.
Plexiglass. Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow, I hope I see that.
It'll be all around. Yeah, it's crazy. So let me ask you this. There's many comedic duos that are out there, and I've got to say, up there in my top ranking, it's you and Kevin. How long have you known each other, and do you remember how you met?
I do, but you know what? It's honestly, that's it's somewhat part of my show, so I'd rather not talk about it, but we've known each other.
Spill it,
yeah, because again, it's not just me telling the story of how we met, it's a funny story. But I've known him since we grew up in the same town, went to the same high school, but we didn't start hanging out then because he was 4 years old. I was a freshman, he was a senior. But yeah, we started somewhat hanging around at 13, and if you come to Zany's tonight or tomorrow night, you'll hear that story and the fun in that story, because Kevin didn't really like me in the beginning, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow. So. Which, by the way, tickets $22. You can still get them right now at Zanies.com. Highly suggest you get those tickets right now.
I'll be afterwards. Usually there's some photos and merch, and I'll sign stuff and take photos and stuff. So definitely come out, get all that. You'll get some photos and some pictures and signatures and fun stuff. So sorry, I'm so interested in this keyboard to know what it does.
It's actually that remote for that TV up there,
and a keyboard.
The TV doesn't work half the time.
Yeah, I caught this show a couple years ago with you and Kevin at Zany's. It was a good time.
The Get Old show, nice. Yeah. So Kevin and I had been we haven't done one in a while. I sort of took a break on it. Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and that podcast we did for about 8 years, and it started off. In this little 40-seat black box theater in LA, and Kevin, I really wanted to do a podcast because Kevin had been doing 3 podcasts, and I really wanted to do one. He's like, "Well, why don't you talk about your sobriety and why you thought because I had almost 4 years sober. Almost 5 years sober, and I relapsed. And Kevin's like, "Why do you think you relapsed?" And I was like, "I wasn't accountable. I wasn't going to meetings and stuff like that." And I feel like that's why when I got some pain medicine for actual pain, I didn't have anyone to talk to. So anyway, he was like, "Well, let's do a podcast about you being accountable." So we started Jay and Bob Get Old, and it went for 8 years. I don't know. It was a blast, and it really was. A lot came out of that podcast that I didn't expect, because besides touring all over, which I didn't expect it to grow so big and to be touring to London and to Australia and all that, but also people were coming up to me over the years being like, "Oh my gosh, I went to rehab for a month, and when I got out of it, I wanted to use right away, but someone said, listen to this podcast, and every day I listened to a new episode, and it kept me sober one more day, and now
so
I have a year
people.
And a half, or yeah, so, and I didn't expect that from the podcast. So, but yeah, we've been here for that, for the podcast, and yeah, so it's cool to be back here now with my solo show, Amusing Stories. I tell stories and stuff, but I don't focus. I focus on a bunch of different things and try to make it as fun as possible. So it's a little combination of storytelling / stand-up comedy. So. So come out and, again, enjoy, love it, learn it.
It's awesome to have you back in town. That's awesome.
Thank you, sir.
I think we're just going to kind of skip around a little bit. The View Askew Film Universe, Kevin created that, but you were definitely one of the standouts. Jay is kind of hit historic levels at this point. How did you develop that character? Was it just you, or was it the Amplified?
Well, Kevin did it. When I started hanging with Kevin, around Kevin anyway, after he got to know me, he's like, dude, you have a weird sense of humor and you're funny and someone should put you in a movie. And then cut to, he decides to write his own movie. He's like, I'm going to put you in a movie, and I wrote a character based on you. So the Jay character in Clerks is literally the exactly how I acted. I smoked weed. Besides selling weed, I never sold weed outside of a store. And that was, he just wrote that into the characters to give us a reason to be in front of the store. But I smoked weed and I was super obnoxious, and I used to, all the stuff you see the characters say and do, that was me. And that was stuff Kevin heard me say or saw me do from like when we started hanging out when I was like 13 all the way up to 17 or 18, however old I was when we shot Clerks. So yeah, and then over the years he literally like adapted the character. Like that's why in Mallrats he's more slapsticky and snoochie boochies, and then Chasing Amy, he says, who talks like that? Clerks 2, the guys come up and go, where you guys been? And we're like, I've been in rehab for 6 months. I got pulled over for a deployed airbag. That really happened. I literally, me and this girl I was dating, we're on our way to Newark, New Jersey, on our way home from Newark, New Jersey, copping some drugs from Newark, and we got into an accident and the airbag came out, and again, it wasn't like deployed and big and out, but then you smush it down. But the car was barely runnable, and we tried to drive home and make it to the house so we could use our drugs we just went and bought, and we got pulled over and they found drugs on me, and I went to rehab for 6 months. So like again, Kevin over the years has sort of adapted the characters, and that's what's awesome about this new movie, is because he's somewhat adapted the characters somewhat again into more recent Jay Mewes. So you'll see when you see Jay and Silent Bob reboot, you'll get what I'm saying. It's very cool. So yeah.
And you mentioned the reboot, and a lot of people want to know, what legally can you let us know about the movie right now?
I honestly don't know. If you notice, Kevin's been posting stuff about people in the movie and all that. I've barely been posting except for stealing his post because I'm so afraid of saying something.
And then he sent you the text message.
Yeah, like him, my wife produced the movie, and she's literally the one who got it going because, we were supposed to do Clerks, and then Clerks didn't happen because Jeff didn't want to do it. Then we're going to do Mallrats. And then after Mallrats didn't happen because Universal owns the rights, wouldn't let us do it. Kevin wrote Jay and Bob, but it was double the budget from the other movies, and we were having trouble finding out this and tax credits and politics and all this, and my wife she had produced Tusk and Yoga Hosers with Kevin, so her and this other producer Liz just kept on it and getting the budget, trying to get the budget down and find out where we could shoot with the best tax credit and all this stuff I don't understand honestly, but she really fought for it. So my point is she really pushed and made the movie happen, and so she's really on that stuff. Don't talk about this. Don't say this.
Right.
This person doesn't. The publicists don't want this to know this guy's in the movie until later. We want it to be a surprise. And so anyway, I've been staying away from all that, saying who's in the movie.
Right.
Even when someone's like, "Well, Kevin already posted that person's in the movie," I'm like, "Yeah, but I didn't see it, and I'm not going to say it
that way."
So yeah, I'm just staying clear from that. So yeah, there's not much I can say that I know I could say really, except for that part that yet again Kevin has sort of adapted. Jay and Bob have over the is written in the sort of now of more to what Jay and Bob are now. Sorry, I'm still waking up, but
no, it's all good.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying. Like I said, I explained that over the years he's taken the characters and based it a little bit more on what I'm like as a
kind of real life stuff,
a 30-year-old.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, is Jay still a Morris Day and the Time fan in this movie?
Again,
oh well, yeah. We can't talk about that. But
talk about it.
Okay, that's all.
Well, it's great that you asked because again, there's something mentioned somewhat, and you'll see, Kevin. This movie. What's great about the movie is there's a lot of throwbacks throughout each movie, all in this movie. Like,
right.
You will see little bits and go, oh my gosh, she's throwing back to Clerks 2, to Dogma, to this, to that.
Wow.
So you'll see. It's awesome. Honestly,
gotcha.
The movie. When I read the script, it honestly, it was like, wow, like it's really clever and smart writing. And I'm not just saying that because Kevin's my buddy. Like, it really is. It's like I don't know, he was really able to like sort of tie all the movies in and have people say stuff and do stuff that will throw back. If you're a fan of the movies, you'll like be like, oh my gosh, I know that. That's from this is from that. And if you don't know the movie will still make sense.
Right.
Even if you've never seen any of the movies. So it's pretty awesome.
And it's funny when you talk about the movies because I remember back when I guess real ringtones were a thing, I got in trouble because my ringtone was from the scene in Jay and Silent Bob where it's fuck, yeah. And it went off in church one morning. So
what?
Yeah, completely forgot about that. But yeah, so. Oh, man. Jason Mewes is our guest right now. He's at Zanies this weekend. You can still get your tickets, $22 at Zanies.com. Got a couple of fan questions that we sent out on Twitter yesterday, and some people wanted to kind of know, and me and Eli will kind of bounce off of them. One guy wants to know, have you ever fanboyed meeting a hero or legend and then, in turn, geeked out about you?
And then return. I think I know what he means by that. I mean, there's tons. Excuse me. There's a ton of people over the years from the Comic-Cons, especially, where I get to meet people. I mean, when I was in London, like almost the whole cast, and in San Diego Comic-Con, I've like run into the whole cast of Game of Thrones like twice, and I'm such a fan of that show.
I still have yet to see Game of Thrones.
I rode the elevator like 3 times with Jon Snow, and so badly wanted to say something to him, but I didn't have anything to say. But so I just sort of stood back, me and my wife. First time I was by myself, and then I told my wife, and then literally we like had to go back down. Like I came back up to the room, he was in the elevator, and then he happened to be coming back down with us, and me and her were like standing there. We didn't say anything, but yeah. So there's been a bunch of those, but one that really stands out to me is at the cons, they do those professional photos, and my like professional photo booth, whatever, I was done, and they set them up right next to each other. And when I was leaving mine, I was like, oh, I see a long line for this booth next to me. There's curtains. Who is it? And I like peeked in, and it was Jason Momoa. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, can you see? And when you go there, like you never just there's always like the agent, manager, or whatever, are always there for everyone's person,
right?
And the good thing to do is ask them. I don't usually ever just jump in anyone's photos. And so I asked him, and he's like, totally. And so he went over, and he's like, come in. And it was awesome because I came up, and they hold the line. He looked over, and I was like, hey, what's up, man? Can I jump in a photo? And he was like, stooge to the news. And he like gave me this hug, and I couldn't believe it. And like, it was pretty awesome. And I sort of got butterflies, and it sounds weird, but I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. So I love him from that. And of course, I like Stargate Atlantis. I'm a fan of that. Not as much as Game of Thrones, but I'm an Aquaman. So I mean, he's just all around, and what a nice dude he was. I had no idea. And then I happened to be riding home on the plane with him, and he was sitting behind me, and it was funny because the magazine for that, like American Airlines, he was on the cover, and he's like in a wet shirt and stuff, and it was like Aquaman or whatever, and it was like promoting the movies, or one of the movies he was in. But it was funny because I like on purpose, I was sitting looking at the mag, and I like looked back at him and made sure I put it up high, and I was like And it was so funny because he was cool to where it was like, oh my God, he's like, here, do that again, and I'm going to take a picture leaning in like, what the heck? And we'll take a selfie and we can Instagram it. Like, I busted you looking at my photo and stuff. So it was really cool. And there's a post, you could probably find it if you go back, way back hilarious. On my Instagram. So anyway, he was really cool. But yeah, so there's been lots of moments like that over the years. Not so cool like that where I've met people even. Stanley, every time, honestly. It's like I've known the dude since Mallrats, which is 20-something years ago, but every con I've seen him at, and I got to take a picture with him in one of those photo booth things that I'm talking about, I would jump in all the time if he was there. And it was awesome because sometimes me and Kevin would be doing a duo photo op, and Stan would come over and jump in ours, and he'd be like, can I get in your photos, guys? And we'd be like, yeah. But every time I hear him talk, I mean, I still get like, butterflies, because it just reminds me of way back Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and then Mallrats, and then he's so amazing. But yeah, so, and again, it's weird being at those shows for me because like I'll walk into the green room and it'll be like Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Michael Rooker, blah, blah, blah. And they're all sitting at the same table, and I'll be like, and Jay West will always want to go eat some food and stuff and sit at a table, and I'll be like, I'll be out here, bro. Because I don't know, I get like real nervous. I don't want to ever sit with any of them and they start asking me stuff because I'll feel like overwhelmed. So again, I still get like that constant. I get overwhelmed being around so many people I enjoy. I'm a huge TV watcher, and there's lots of cool people at these comic conventions. So yeah, but yeah. So hopefully that answered that Twitter question.
Yeah,
there it is.
So another one is they've over the years there's been Clerk toys, and now of course the Funko Pops have blown up. Mm-hmm. How cool is it to have an action figure of yourself?
Very, very cool, man. I remember the very first one we did was, the one where you push the button on the back and it's like, I'm a clam digger, man. And it came with Walt Flanagan's dog and a little bong and a little bag of weed and stuff. That was the very first one, and it's funny because people still have them in the wrapper and ask me to sign them and stuff. But it was so surreal because I remember being at a I think we were at Chicago Comic Convention, and the guys who made that graffiti, I think it was, and don't quote me on that, but I believe they were the ones who did it. But I remember the guy brought it to our hotel room, like the prototype, of the figures, and it just blew me away. I mean, it was so surreal. Again, I literally do remember. Again, I don't remember everything about that moment, but I remember the guy literally bringing it to our room at it was either San Diego or Chicago Comic Con, and being like, here's the like prototype of the characters, and they they were just pieced together. It wasn't the actual figure, but it was like, and it was just, it's super surreal. And then later on they're like, all right, we're doing another one. There's the in-action figures, and there's going to be the Bloodman and Chronic figures, and I don't know. So it's super surreal, and especially to have a pop, especially how popular they are. And ours are literally vaulted, they're nuts. But Kevin, has gotten some other ones since then. I'm hoping they'll do another one for us. So my point is, I'm not being greedy, but I just have the one. We have, but we need more J-Pops. Yeah, I would love, because they have a bunch of Kevin Smiths, a bunch of comic book men's, but they don't have, so hopefully they'll come out with another type of Jay and Bob pop for me to get. So, and
speaking of pops, like that is one of the prized possessions in my collection is the Jay and Silent Bob pops. And like I sit there and it's like you just sit there and it's like, I think I looked the other day and it was like over $100 value thing. And it's like in glass, nobody touches it. Yeah. And it's just crazy cool to see that. One more fan question, and we'll let you get out of here because I know you got a busy day. You talked about conventions and signing stuff. What's the craziest thing you've signed at a convention and the craziest thing you've seen happen at a convention?
Because
I'm pretty sure some people have brought you some very...
Yeah, I mean, there's been... I guess I think someone brought me it was like a dildo bong. That was pretty weird because it was like a combination of a bong and a dildo. So yeah, I mean, and I always think it's pretty cool. People will get me to sign their body and then they'll get it tattooed. So signing the body isn't weird to me anymore because again, people will get arms signed and legs and it's funny because someone, there's always like, will you sign? They'll make like a big deal, like, oh my God, my girl wants you to sign her chest, and they'll make it seem like it's gonna be this like big boob hanging out and stuff, and it's gonna be the boob, but it's always just like right here, and I'm like, well, that's not the boob. Still be like, can you sign her boobs? That's what it'll be, and then they'll do this, and it'll be like the top. I'm like, well, that's not really a boob, but that's fine. But I'm just saying, or they'll like sign my butt, and then it's like literally like
the top part,
yeah. And again, that's all great. I'm not saying like, oh, I want more, but it's just funny because they'll be like, all right, this is a weird question. Like, I'm gonna whisper it to you. Will you sign my girl's boob? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then they'll be like, okay, here. So it's just funny. But yeah, so there's always, but it's awesome when they'll come back. I'll see them, a year later at the con and be like, oh, remember you signed my arm or my leg? Look, I got Jay and Bob tattooed animated figures, and underneath I tattooed your names or whatever. But yeah, I would say the weirdest thing probably was that dildo bong because it was like literally like this big, huge.
It's like you don't know how to respond to it.
So it was really odd. So yeah, so I would say right off the top of my head that stands out.
There it is. Our guest right now, Jason Mewes. He is at Zanies this weekend. $22 for tickets. Get them right now. Zanies.com is where you get your tickets. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with us.
Thank you, my man.
So very big show today. Not only did we recap our thoughts on what's happening Sunday night at WrestleMania, Jason Mewes was on the show today, which was really awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. It's one of those things where I had a million questions to ask, but we had a short time to ask him, so we tried to pick the highlights. But yeah, awesome dude.
Great things talking about, let's see, he's at Zanies tonight. Great things talking about the new Jay and Silent Bob movie, which he dove into, but kind of beat around the bush, which I understand that because he doesn't want to get in trouble with Kevin. But such an awesome thing. So the big night, Sunday night, WrestleMania NXT TakeOver as well. We will next week discuss everything that happened with NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, and our thoughts on the event. And so that's it for the show today.
Sounds good.
So make sure that you download the podcast, give it 5 stars, give it a thumbs up. Also, Eli's got his podcast, Music City Horror. Give them a shout out, download their podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Take it easy.